Oh no! There's some spots on my banana. What's wrong with me? Oh my God, I gotta call a doctor. Not really, but if there's spots on your penis, you may want to call a doctor. So, today's episode. Welcome to Sex Talk with JoJo Bear. My name is JoJo Bear. I'm a somatic sex and intimacy coach. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about genital herpes, right? Those little reoccurring flare-ups in your penis, if you got one. So, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about the herpes simplex virus, the HSV, and how it affects you, especially in regards to masturbation, because I'm continuing my talk on National Masturbation Month. So we're going to talk a little bit about herpes. May not be the most polite and sexy conversation, but I think it's important because there are a lot of men that are walking around with the herpes virus. Some of you guys know and some of you guys don't know. But the guys that do know, you know that when you have flare-ups, it is so yuckily uncomfortable to be touched or to touch yourself. But how can we change that? Right? So let me give a little bit of information on the herpes virus. I went all the way to the CDC website. I didn't walk there. And CDC says this. They say genital herpes is the most common sexually transmitted infection caused by the herpes simplex virus, the HSV. That's what we're going to talk about today, the HSV. Sexual contact is the primary way that this virus spreads. After the initial infection, the virus lies dormant in your body and can reactivate several times a year. So all you guys with genital herpes, you know what I'm talking about. But let me tell you, if you don't know, genital herpes can cause pain, itching, and sores in your genital area. But you may have no signs of symptoms of genital herpes, but if infected, you can be contagious or even have no visible sores. What? Oh my God, it's getting spookier here. Don't worry. I'm just giving you some information and then we'll get to the good stuff. Okay, HSV. Guess what? You listening to this right now, you don't think you have herpes? Well, you probably do. Because there's two types of herpes. There's the HSV1 and the HSV2. And let me just tell you, HSV1 typically infects the lips and the mouth, causing oral herpes. They're called sores. And they develop this from the beginning of time. You basically get it at birth. You can have these cold sores all the time. Anybody who's dealt with it, pretty much most people carry that in their body. So if you get offended that somebody says you have herpes, don't take it too personal. Just say everybody has it. Okay? But the other herpes is the HSV2. And that typically infects the genitals, causing lesions to develop on and around the genital area and the anus. But we're talking about the penis today, but I might even throw the anus. And for all you gals, you can get them in your vagina as well. This form of virus is transmitted through sexual contact. But you know what? Most people don't know they have it because they don't have any signs or symptoms. And sometimes it's so mild that they have no idea. But when present, the symptoms may begin to about 2 to 12 days after exposure of the virus. Okay? So, if you experience symptoms of genital herpes, they may include, if I had a little sign up here, I would show you this right now. But this is what they include. They include pain or itching, right? They include small red bumps or tiny white blisters. They include ulcers or scabs. So if you see any of those on your penis, go to your doctor. That's my recommendation for you. And if you're feeling during that initial outbreak, and you may know you might have it, if you have flu-like symptoms such as swollen lymph nodes or in your groin, muscles, headaches, and fever aches. And fever. Aches that come along with fever. You know what I mean. If you're getting all of that, then you probably may have gotten infected with the herpes virus. Maybe not. Don't take it so literal. You know, some people might hear this and think, oh my God, I got the herpes virus. And you got a common cold. Maybe just clean your hands at work with all those pigs at work, right? Okay, so men can develop sores on their penis, on their scrotum, on their buttocks and thighs, on their anus, their mouth, and their urethra. You know that tube that allows urine to drain from the bladder to the outside? That place too, yeah. So genital herpes is really different for each person. The symptoms may recur off and on for years. And some people may experience some of these like throughout the whole year for more than once. For many people, right? However, the outbreaks are less frequent than time passes. During a recurrence, shortly before sores appear, you may feel burning and tingling and itching where the infection had entered your body. You may feel pain in your lower back or maybe even your buttocks and legs. So it affects a part of your body. And people that also have like weaker immune systems, if you have HIV or if you have any kind of illnesses that are kind of weakening your immune system, like Crohn's disease or psoriasis, there's a lot of ways that you can have reoccurring episodes of flare-ups, all right? So genital herpes is so common in the United States, more than 1 out of every 6 people aged 14 to 49 have genital herpes. So that's a lot of people. So my recommendation, before you're staking your pee-pee into someone, maybe get a little bit of their history. And if you have herpes, maybe you should start talking about it. I know it might sound like a turnoff, but guess what? It's a turn on if you're honest. You're going to keep dates that way, right? And if a person can't deal with it, then you're at least giving them the option. So don't take it so personal if somebody says, you know what, I don't want to have sex with you because I don't want to get herpes. You know how it is. It doesn't feel comfortable. So, like, really be honest with this. All right. I've talked so much about all this kind of goo gaga stuff. I gave you all the basics, but I want to talk to you about masturbating with herpes, right? So, here's what I get from a lot of guys that I work with. They say, you know, when I have flare-ups and I'm horny and I want to come, I would love to masturbate, but when I do it, it gets all sore. So what do I do, JoJo? Help me, help me. Okay, I will tell you what I tell these guys, but I wanted to tell you first that you can spread the herpes virus to other parts through masturbation. Right? That's the common fear. Everybody says, oh, you know, oh, I can or can't. And it says, yes, you could. So what you want to do is the most important thing is if you're touching yourself, especially when you're having a flare-up, if you're touching yourself, make sure you clean your hands properly. You know, you can use hand sanitizer. Look at this light. So there's a hand sanitizer. Squirt it on your hands. You don't want to use that lube. It burns the hell. Not that I know, but it burns the hell out of your cock if you use hand sanitizer. So clean up your hands. Because what happens is also, you're boffing off, you might have a flare-up, and then you start touching the doorknobs, you start touching the light post. You don't want to give anybody the herpes virus, right? And it's easier for the herpes virus to spread if you have dry hands or hands with microscopic cuts. During the first year of infection, you're at a high risk of shedding, which could pass to other areas if there's an abrasion or cut. So you don't want to touch your body in other places, and you want to be mindful, especially touching your eyes. You don't want to get into eyes or any open areas, any sores or any areas. You don't want to spread the disease throughout your body. It's really important. Or you don't really want to infect anybody else. All right? So it's a good idea to avoid masturbation during your first herpes outbreak, your risk of spreading is higher than the reoccurring outbreaks. So you may not even know that this is your first one. So it's really tough. You might have been infected and not know, right? So depending on the stage of the outbreak, the degree of friction affects the outbreak area. So masturbation could be uncomfortable and slow down a lot of healing. So what do you do? What do you do? Well, first of all, we're talking about masturbation, but I also want to throw in that the common triggers for patients with herpes is rough sex, is sex after a long period of abstinence. You might get a flare-up. Sometimes shaving, if you're having it around the area, especially around the anal area, if you're shaving down there, it can flare up certain areas. But masturbation is the biggest one. So what I usually tell guys is to play it safe, use lubrication. You basically want to use as plenty of lubrication as you can, right? And so what I like telling guys is that the best thing is water-based lube is awesome. It's always handy. It's always great. But if you really have to masturbate when you're flaring up and it hurts, use some, where is it? Right here. Castor oil. I am not promoting this company, but I use castor oil, and you can get this at any drugstore. I use castor oil for lots of scrapes, lots of abrasions, lots of scars, and it's really great because the thing is, the properties of castor oil heal wounds, and they have like anti-inflammatory properties in it. So they're really awesome. And you know what? It's a little gooey. It's a little bit of a cleanup afterwards. But the reality is that if you're stroking with it gently, calmly, and softly, using castor oil, there can be an actual way to kind of help with the healing. Just try to not be so rough. So castor oil is my number one recommendation. Go out. I'm going to be talking about castor oil on later episodes, but I think it works wonderful with having some genital herpes, right? So the other thing is that what I talk to a lot about guys is sometimes guys come in and say, oh my God, something's happening with my penis. Now, I'm not a doctor. I guess I could play one if that was part of the scene. Might cost you extra, but I'm not a doctor. So go see a doctor to get properly diagnosed. One of the biggest things that men do is they avoid it because they don't want to stick their pee-pee out to their doctor because their doctor's never seen a penis before, ever. They've gone through bazillion years of medical school and they've never seen a penis before, especially one that has a sore on it. But if you go to the doctor is going to give you a lot of information and he's going to diagnose you because a lot of times guys may be thinking they have the HSV virus inside of them and they might have eczema, they might have psoriasis, they might have pimples, they might have contact dermatitis. So there are all these other things that may look like herpes. So go to your doctor. Get off of WebMD. Go to your doctor and see what they can do for you. And if you need to masturbate, because I'm all about self-pleasure and cultivating self-love, use some castor oil, slow it down, really be gentle with yourself, and just take it easy because the flare-up is going to go away, as you know. And nowadays, there is a lot of prescribed medication. I believe there's a medication called Valtrex. There may be some other stuff out in the universe that the doctors know. Maybe I will talk to a doctor and let them know if there's anything new on the market. But unfortunately, there is no cure for herpes at this moment. So the best things that I usually tell people is if you're going to be masturbating while you're having a flare-up, or if you're going to be masturbating when you have the genital herpes, be gentle with yourself. Really be in a place where you are touching your cock in a real, gentle, soft way, using castor oil, being careful of using devices like fleshlights or certain things that can create tension on your cock. So there's like fleshlights or the cock pumps or even the little squeezy things that you kind of put in your hand. You know what I'm talking about. You're probably playing with one right now. So be careful with that. Also, it is so super duper important. One of the viewers here said I say super duper a lot. I think it's my word of the year, or my 2 words of the year. So it's super duper important to let your partners know that you have genital herpes. Remove the shame from it. Let people know. And it's so really loving to let people know that you can be in a place where you can be honest about your sexual history. So, any information I left out about genital herpes? Anything you want to know? Do you have genital herpes you want me to know? You don't have to put it down on the messages down there. You can contact me at metamorphicembodiment@gmail.com. Or you could just subscribe. You can just be one of these phantom visitors that just see JoJo Bear's face and hear what he has to say. So, subscribe below. Get on your knees and do it. And check out my website, www.metamorphicembodiment.com. My name is JoJo Bear. I hope you are practicing self-love and really playing with your man meat. So, until next time, be well and be mindful of those spots on your cock. Ciao for now.